We are back with another update regarding Michael and Angela's ongoing court case, where it does tie to here, provided to us by sarcasm. Angela Deem mentions Michael fathering a child in the US, claims abuse in new court filing. Honestly, this is something that's going to go the distance, folks. Honestly. Now, it does say here that in a new court filing, 90 Day Fiancé star Angela claims she suffered physical abuse at the hands of her estranged husband, Michael. Now, this physical abuse is something that we never witnessed. We only ever witnessed abuse from Angela. So I'm curious to find out how Angela is going to have the evidence to back up these claims of Michael physically abusing her when it was only really shown her abusing him verbally and someone also pretty much vandalizing his property. So that was a quite interesting one, to be fair with you, but we shall wait and see if anything else comes from that. And if it does and Angela has got the proof, well then this is definitely going to make this court case take a turn. Now, at this moment in time, it continues by saying Angela's attorney also claims that Michael had multiple primaries and purportedly fathered a child, okay, by another woman in the United States. The new filing is part of Angela's attempt to have her marriage to Michael annulled because she believes that getting him annulled means that he would then get deported as a result. That's why she does not want to go for the divorce way of doing things. But also it says here, as Cousin was the first to report, Angela filed for annulment in June of 2024. Michael launched a very successful GoFundMe and was able to quickly raise more than 50K to hire an attorney to fight the annulment. Now, we know when it came to his attorney fighting that annulment, Michael's attorney then later filed a counter complaint for divorce, because if he gets divorced, that means he can still stay in the United States of America. But if it's an annulment, Angela believes that things can go in a different way. Now, with that being said, it continues here by saying that was followed by a motion to dismiss the annulment filed last month. In that filing, it was revealed Michael sent Angela more than 200K between 2018 and 2023. Angela confirmed this was true in her responses to requests for admissions, which is something that definitely shocked a lot of us folks. Now it continues here by saying, did Michael commit fraud? On Friday, Angela's attorney filed a response attempting to argue an annulment was merited due to fraud committed by Michael. Okay, and this is from the filing itself in particular, where it says plaintiff Angela, defendant Michael were married on January 27, 2020 in Lagos, Nigeria. However, the defendant entered this marriage with the sole motive to gain entry into the United States and subsequently gain permanent resident status. Although the plaintiff had romantic notions toward the defendant, he did not truly reciprocate those genuine notions, as directly evidenced by his behavior in February of 2024, when he abandoned the plaintiff after having arrived on United States soil a mere 6 days after his arrival. 60 days, my apologies, after his arrival. And to be honest, if you literally like fleeing after 60 days is nasty work. I don't know why Michael thought that was going to be a good idea. He should have really stuck around for longer than that. You know what I mean? At least a few more months. You know what I mean? Like, let's say, I would say minimum 6 months if you ask me personally. But to really fight your case, I think if he stayed there for at least a year, then you probably wouldn't be in this position. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously within that 6 months or even a year, then, you know, there would have been no denying of them two obviously sleeping together, you know, within that timeline per se, purely because Angela documented that them two were sex freaks for one another. But nonetheless, though, it continues here by saying the filing argues that fraud can be grounds for divorce in Georgia, but the only two specific cases it cites are in regards to lying about already being married. Of course, a marriage when one of the parties was already married would be legally void, which is obviously where things continue to grow here. Was Michael abusive towards Angela? And this is something that obviously we all want to know about. I can imagine 90 Day Fiancé viewers witnessed numerous scenes of Angela being abusive towards Michael on Before the 90 Days, 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, and The Last Resort. However, she claims that she was the real victim of abuse, which, again, I hope that she's got the proof to back that up, because that is a crazy statement to make if you're lying. So you want to make sure you've got the evidence to support that, because, you know, we live in a world where there are many, many women in this world who are afraid to go and report a man or woman to the authorities, out to the fact, one, embarrassment, two, afraid that they won't be believed, and multiple other reasons. And to be honest, given the fact that there are many women in this world that do lie about being abused, physically abused, this is what makes women who are actually abused more fearful actually going forward to, report that person to authorities, amongst other reasons that they have as well, of course. So I really hope that she isn't lying, because it's not good in terms of how it affects other women. But at the same time, it's not going to be cool to find out that she has been abused by Michael. Now, it continues by saying that the defendant purports to have endured verbal abuse and physical abuse at the hands of the plaintiff, when the true fact of the matter is that the plaintiff was the victim of the defendant's triads and multiple assaults. The defendant further purports that the plaintiff victimized him prior to his relocation to the United States, which leads one to believe that indeed his sole motive and intent was to carry out the actions he planned, which were to arrive in the United States and abandon the plaintiff at his first opportunity. And also, given the fact that she's saying that Michael also verbally and physically abused her, does that mean that he did it for the 7 years that they were together? Or is she saying this is something that happened later on in the relationship? So I'm very curious if this happened either before or after he made it to the States. If these things are true. While the defendant purports to have suffered egregious examples of control and abuse, the suffering party is the plaintiff. The defendant has hit and slapped the plaintiff around the head and face, and has grabbed her wrists so forcefully to have caused her skin to tore and bloody. Again, though, where is this evidence? And again, right now, everything that we've been given here isn't necessarily directing us to evidence to back up the statement. It is just literally word of mouth. And yeah, we need the proof. 1000%. And it would be a shame if Michael was to lose a court case based on his accusations, and they're not even actually, and there's no evidence to back it up. Because at the end of the day, if she was to win this court case with these accusations, with no evidence, then that means an innocent man may be found guilty, you know what I mean? Which wouldn't be nice in any shape or form. So again, the evidence is very, very crucial at this moment in time. It continues here by saying Angela Deem stated in her request for admission answers that many of the 90-day scenes in which she was verbally and physically abusive to Michael were scripted by show producers. The argument is to the new filing. I mean, listen, we have to see obviously how that works out. But anyway, it continues here by saying many interactions between the parties were scripted by the producers of 90 Day. It reads. Now, also continues here by saying Michael got a woman pregnant in the US. Well, let's find out. The new filing from Angela's attorney also mentions Michael purportedly getting a woman pregnant and welcoming a child after he arrived in the United States. So, did he get a woman pregnant in the United States, or did he get a woman pregnant in Nigeria, and then he's left that child in Nigeria, but he's now in the United States without the child? I'm not too sure, but it sounds like it's probably in the United States. But either way, that's interesting, because, damn, man's been getting to work. I mean, that was a quick birth, so it must be a child that was, a woman maybe in Nigeria, or am I missing something here? Let me know your thoughts, please, folks. Let me know your thoughts. But it continues here by saying defendant has purportedly fathered a child by another woman while in the United States. He has had multiple female paramours, which he boldly taught on various social media platforms, and he uses knowledge of immigration law to coach other would-be romancers to prey on unsuspecting women in search of love and companionship. There has been no confirmation Michael has fathered a child with a woman after entering the United States. Yeah, I mean, listen, end of the day, no woman has come out to say this. So again, Angela's saying a whole lot of things with no evidence. So we need the evidence for these things to actually, make an impact. Otherwise, without the evidence, then these things are literally just Angela talking a bunch of gobbledygook, which is not cool. Angela's argument that there is a legal grounds for annulment seems weak at best, and it really does feel like it seems weak at best right now. She has no evidence to any of her claims, just accusations. Michael's attorney summed up the situation well in her filing last month, including a bit of a snot directed at Angela. Respondent Michael shows that the petitioner Angela brought this action in bad faith. She has always known that the parties had a true and valid marriage. She has admitted in the television appearances on YouTube, in her complaint for annulment, see paragraph 3, and in her responses to respondents request for admissions. And honestly, like right now, to be honest with you, I don't think Angela is in any position where she's winning this court case. I feel like she's in a position where she's in a desperate position where she's now trying to add other things to the mix without any evidence, which is not going to look good on herself in particular. Which of course is going to, I would imagine, help Michael's attorney, further on prove that Angela is doing this out of spite, not out of actual genuine, reasons. Also continues here by saying she thought she could get over on the court and get back at the respondent for leaving her with the complaint in this case because her effort at serve as a process was intended to be by publication, but she thought her husband would not find that until she could publicly shame him with an annulment order. She had no idea that he would be here to the punch and acknowledge the service before she could even have her very first publication run. I mean, honestly, Angela's always had that cocky nature anyway, and obviously that cocky nature has clearly shot her in the foot. In this case, the petitioner's entire claim for annulment contained a complaint absence of justifiable issue of law such that there is no way this court could have possibly accepted the position that the parties' marriage was invalid. The marriage was far too long and had already been my apologies, I had to clear my throat there, had already been adjudicated as valid by the federal government, which is certainly compliant enough to ensure that no state court could or should ever question the legitimacy of the parties' marriage. Okay. Furthermore, the petitioner constantly proclaimed that she is a very bright woman, and certainly she is. She would have never been duped into marrying someone she did not want to be married to, especially when she was making so much money off of the television exposure that the union produced. Facts. Absolute facts. It's hard to imagine Angela's bid for annulment being successful. I agree with Michael's attorney in that it appears as though Angela filed an annulment hoping Michael wouldn't even find out about it until it was too late. The annulment would likely be denied and the couple will then move on to a conventional divorce. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the matter of the fact is, when it comes to the situation in particular, Angela is literally punching right now. She's literally punching, she's reaching. She's not got no grounds, to be honest with you, right now that gives her any favors. The best thing Angela can probably do is just take the L on this one, you know what I mean? But again, if she's got evidence towards these claims she has, then fair enough, this could go places. But the thing is, though, even if she was to have evidence of abuse, it doesn't necessarily mean, or at least I don't believe that this would still mean that the annulment would be invalid. No, sorry. I don't believe that this would still support the annulment. I don't think that abuse has anything to do with the annulment part, to be honest with you. I still feel like this would probably still turn into a divorce court case rather than an annulment one, regardless, even if he has been abusive. Given the fact that, they have had intimacy whilst they were obviously here in the States. Now, of course, when it comes to him getting another woman pregnant, on the other hand, I don't know how that would make things any different, but maybe that would make things different in another way, so in particular. But hey, it is what it is, folks, okay? Let me know exactly what your thoughts are in this situation in particular, and we can mostly talk about it. Now, I have been able to obtain the actual court documents themselves in particular, all right? The ones that were obviously, so you see what's provided here. I've been able to actually get every single page. I believe it's about 6 or 8 pages long, I think. I have been able to get that. So that's something that I will be planning on either adding into this video at the end that may come up to show you guys, or I may make it into a short instead. But either way though, we got all the information that we need here. That's the main thing here, folks, okay? Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think that Angela has any grounds to really get that annulment, or do you think that she's literally just punching this moment in time? And also, what do you think about these claims of Michael abusing her? Do you think that she's making it up, or do you think that she's telling the truth? Let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.